Hi guys, I'm back. I know, I'm so sorry. I took a few days off. Monday was my birthday and work has just been incredibly busy, but I am so happy to be back talking to you guys today about the most amazing architect in the whole wide world, according to me. She is my idol. She's absolutely who I want to be when I grow up. She is known as the Queen of the Curve and also was a huge pioneer when it came to modern and contemporary architecture. And she was the only woman listed in that 50 Architects You Should Know book that got all of this started. And that is none other than Zaha Hadid. And we're gonna get straight into talking about her because there's so much to cover. So let's do it. Okay. She was born on October 31st, 1950 in Baghdad, Iraq. She was raised in an intellectual family that valued education. Her mom came from a wealthy family and actually was who taught her how to draw. Her father was a leading liberal Iraqi politician. When she was 11, she became fascinated with the photos in a book of the Marsh Arabs, which are like these arched homes constructed of reeds. And then when her father actually took her to visit the places in the book, she knew she wanted to become an architect. She goes on to say, quote, "My father took us to see the Sumerian cities. We went by boat and then on a smaller one made of reeds to visit these villages in the marshes. The beauty of the landscape where sand, water, reeds, birds, buildings, and people all somehow flowed together. That has never left me." I thought that was so cool. Also, side note, summer is where architecture first began back in 3000 BC. I didn't know that. I'm absolutely loving researching all these amazing women architects, but I'm also loving all of these like historical tidbits that I'm learning along the way. So that's kind of a cool little side gig there. Anyway, what cemented her curiosity and turned it into passion was a model that was made of her childhood home. So when she was little, her mom designed their childhood home, and their family friend was an architect, and he actually had this miniature model built of the house. And once the house was completed, they actually had the model displayed inside the house. And so Zaha got to see that every single day and was just fascinated by it. So that really kind of cemented her love for architecture. She goes on to say, quote, "I was very young and I was very intrigued by this thing. I must have thought it was a dollhouse, but also my mother had great taste. We got this new furniture, Italian late 50s, and I was beginning to see things that were different." So I think her family, specifically her parents, really kind of nurtured her love for art and architecture, and didn't really limit her, so she can kind of do and try whatever she wanted. So, and you'll see that influence in her architecture when I show it to you later. Okay. In 1972, she began studying at the Architectural Association School of Architecture. Say that 10 times fast. Her former professor, Rem Koolhaas, described her at graduation as a planet in her own orbit. Another professor said that they called her the inventor of the 89 degrees. Nothing was ever 90 degrees. She had spectacular vision. All the buildings were exploding into tiny little pieces. He recalls that she was less interested in details and was more big picture. The way she drew a staircase, for example, you would smash your head against the ceiling and the space was reducing and reducing and you would end up in the upper corner of the ceiling. She couldn't care about tiny details. Her mind was on the broader pictures. When it came to joinery, she knew we can fix that later, and she was right. So I loved learning that about her because that's kind of how I work. So when we start designing a building, I always want to work on like the aesthetics and the architectural details and what I want the space to look like and feel like. And then I reverse engineer that and figure out where we're gonna put the staircase and the office and the this and the that. So that was such a cool thing to learn because here I thought I was kind of doing it backwards, and then in reality it's just how Zaha did it. So anyway, after graduation, she went to work for her former professors at the Office of Metropolitan Architecture in the Netherlands. She became a naturalized citizen of the United Kingdom, and in 1980, she opened her own architectural firm, Zaha Hadid Architects. During the early 1980s, Hadid's style introduced audiences to a new modern architecture style through her extremely detailed and professional sketches. At the time, people were focused on post-modernism designs, so her designs were a different approach to architecture that set her apart from other designers. And you will see that 100% when I show you her body of work. She also began teaching first at the Architectural Association and then at Harvard Graduate School of Design, and then also several other schools. So, her parents really valued education, and so did she. So she went on to teach quite a bit. Her firm was an instant success, but despite that, she actually thought about quitting architecture after her design for an ultra-modern opera house on Cardiff Bay in the UK won a competition, but the design was rejected by the Millennium Commission, who said it was flawed by uncertainties, which is really just an old man way of saying we can't even fathom how we're going to put this together or how this is going to get built, so we're not even going to try. I mean, are you kidding me? Do you know the amount of time and effort and money, I'm sure, that goes into designing these beautiful huge commissions, and then to go on and win the damn thing, but then have it refuse to be built because some old fart can't even figure out how it's gonna get put together? That ain't even your problem, bro. Like, seriously, the architect and the engineer are the only ones that need to worry about how something's gonna get built. You don't worry your pretty little brain about how that's gonna happen. All you gotta do is put up the money. We'll figure it out. So I can see why she was disheartened, because here she is just coming up with these extraordinary designs that are pushing every boundary, and then nobody wants to build them, or at least these people didn't want to build them. So, I mean, I can see what she's like, why would I even continue? Because if I can't like design what I want and actually have it built, then what's the point? So that had to be a huge blow. So anyway, she goes on to say, it was such a depressing time. I made a conscious decision to keep going, but it could have gone either way. So sad. She later went on to win the competition to design the Rosenthal Center of Contemporary Art in Cincinnati, Ohio. That was her first commission won in the US, and also the first American museum designed by a woman. So I had no idea. I love going to museums, and I had no idea that Zaha Hadid was the first woman ever to design a museum in the United States. So that was pretty cool. Her body of work is expressive and made to be fluid and test architectural and engineering boundaries. In 2004, she was awarded the Pritzker for her body of work and contributions to architecture. She was the first woman, and at 54, the youngest architect to receive the award. When asked about the job of an architect, she goes on to say, if it doesn't kill you, then you're no good. I mean, really, you have to go at it full time. You can't afford to dip in and out. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. I can legit sit at my desk at 6 a.m. to work on a project and not get up to drink water, to use a restroom, nothing, till like 6, 7 o'clock at night. It's crazy. Like, I can work nonstop with zero breaks for absolutely anything for 12, 13, 14 hours. But that's architecture. Like, when you're really invested in it and you're in it wholeheartedly, you can put on these blinders and you can absolutely do it nonstop with zero breaks, and just like you live and breathe this. So I totally agree with that quote. She later goes on to talk about the challenges that women architects have in the industry, and she says, when women break off to have babies, it's hard for them to reconnect on the big scale. And when women do succeed, the press, even the industry press, spends far too much time talking about how we dress, what shoes we're wearing, who we're meant to be seeing, dating, instead of talking about the body of work. So I mean, that's every industry, right? Women always get asked all these asinine questions like, who's raising your children and how do you do it all and blah, blah, blah. And men don't get asked any of that. So I totally agree with that. We are definitely, in an uphill battle when it comes to that. But she stood her ground. She was an advocate for women being their authentic selves. Because of the obstacles women had to overcome in the industry, she really did stand her ground and remained committed to her style and her way of work. And she was never sorry for it. She was no apologies. She did what she did and she did it how she did it. And if you liked it, great. And if not, fine. And that's pretty much how I work. Like, I am who I am, I do what I do, and if you like it, great, and if not, sounds like a you problem. She goes on to say, quote, I can be my own worst enemy. As a woman, I'm expected to want everything to be nice, and I'm also expected to be nice myself. But I don't design nice buildings, and I don't like them. I like architecture to have some raw, vital, earthy quality, and I do it my way. So I love that about her. Zero fucks given. Listen, I'm gonna do great shit over here. If you want a part of it, great. If not, all right. So I love that. Sadly, she passed away from a heart attack on March 31st, 2016, and she was only 65 years old. Such an amazing, amazing architect and an amazing woman that really just kind of stood her ground in this very male-dominated industry and was unapologetically herself. And I think that's all women want, right? Especially women in a male industry. We just want a level playing field. We just want to be treated the same, and also not made to feel like we have to go above and beyond because you're not making your male employees or counterparts or whatever do that. So don't make us do that. Let our talent and let our work speak for itself. Anyway, so as you can see, she was an amazing woman. But now let's talk about her amazing body of work because it is impressive. I can't wait to show it to you. So let's get into it. So this is the Vitra Fire Station, commissioned from 1991 to 1993 by the President and General Director of the Swiss furniture firm Vitra. In 1993, he invited Hadid to design a small fire station for the factory. Her radical design, made of raw concrete and glass, was a sculptural work composed of sharp, diagonal forms colliding together in the center. The design plans appeared in an architectural magazine before construction. When completed, it only served as a fire station for a short period of time, as they soon then opened a fire station shortly after. It became an exhibit space instead, and is now on display with the works of very well-known architects. And this was the launching pad of her architectural career. Absolutely gorgeous building. I love the angles of it. So pretty. Next is the Contemporary Art Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. So this is that first museum she built here in the US. At the end of the 1990s, her career began to gather momentum, and as she won commissions for 2 museums and a large industrial building. She competed against a lot of well-known architects, and she actually won. And then again became the first woman to design an art museum in the United States. At 8,500 square meters, the museum was not huge, and her design did not have a flamboyance of the Guggenheim, for example, that was being built at the time. But the project demonstrated Hadid's ability to use architectural forms to create interior drama, including its central element, a 30-meter-long black stairway that passes between massive curving and angular concrete walls. And that's what they look like. So not only is the exterior of this art center just breathtaking, but then because it's so like boxy on the outside, you assume that the inside's going to look the same, but then you walk in and then here's this like amazing curve wall that just grabs your attention. It's beautiful and such a surprise, which I loved about this one. Next is the extension of the Art Museum in Copenhagen, Denmark. The new building is 87 meters long and 20 meters wide and is connected by a 5-meter wide passage to the old museum. There are no right angles, only diagonals, in the concrete shell of the museum. The floor-to-ceiling glass walls of the gallery make the garden the backdrop of the exhibits. So what I absolutely love about this one is, like, at that top picture, if you blink, you can miss it, right? Because it's so reflective that really all you see is like the greenery and you barely notice that there's like this structure. But then in the second picture on the opposite side, it's so imposing and it's this grandiose building and the curvature is gorgeous. So I really love that juxtaposition where like one side of the building is almost missable and the other side is like this super imposing building. I absolutely love that. Okay, so next is the high-speed train station in Naples, Italy. That, when I first saw it, I was like, is that a snake? I mean, doesn't it look like a body of a snake? It's beautiful and so unique. For it being a train station, I would have never thought to do something like that for a train station. I think that's just literally breathtakingly beautiful and so freaking unique. That's what I love about her, is like every building was an opportunity to create something magical for her. Next is also this bridge. It's called Bridge Pavilion in Zaragoza, Spain. Again, so beautiful with all of the curves. This one almost looks like it's moving, which I think was the intent. It's just absolutely beautiful. She designed that between 2005 and 2009. And it was created for an expo that they had going on in 2008. The concrete bridge spans 85 meters long, and the bridge carries or is attached to 4 tunnel-like exhibition spaces that she termed pods, which spread onto the island for a total length of 275 meters. The pods are covered with a skin of 26,000 triangular shingles, many of which open to let in air and light. Like her other structures, the bridge pavilion is composed entirely of diagonal slopes and curves with no right angles. By its curving shape and low profile, the bridge pavilion fits smoothly into the grassy landscape along the river. It is extraordinary how she did that. I love it. And in 2002, she won the international competition for her first project in China, which was this opera house, and it's located in a business district. It has a 103-story glass tower behind it. It covers 70,000 square meters and was built at a cost of $300 million. The complex comprises an 1,800-seat theater, a multi-purpose theater, entry hall, and salon. A covered pathway with restaurants and shops separates the 2 main structures. And this building, like several of her other buildings, was inspired by natural earth forms. The architect referred to it as the 2 pebbles, and it appears akin to 2 giant smooth-edged boulders faced with 75,000 panels of polished granite and glass. Amazing. Breathtaking. Next is the Riverside Museum in Glasgow, Scotland. When I saw this, my jaw dropped. I was like, what? I love this one. The Riverside Museum on the banks of the River Glyde, Glasgow in Scotland houses the Glasgow Museum of Transport. Hadid described the 10,000 square meter building with 7,000 square meters of gallery space as a wave and folds in movement, and a shed in the form of a tunnel open at the extreme ends, one end toward the city and the other toward the glide. Like many of her buildings, the whole form is only perceived when viewed from above. The facades are covered with zinc plates. The roofline has a series of peaks and angles. The interior galleries cause some controversy. Visitors who come to see the collection of historic automobiles found that they are mounted on the walls, high overhead, so it is impossible to look into them. So, I mean, even the inside, her design for the inside and how art would be displayed was unique. Next is the Broad Museum in East Lansing, Michigan. Another one that I hadn't seen, and when I saw it, I was just struck by its uniqueness. This was her second project in the United States, and has 4,274 square meters dedicated to contemporary art and modern art. And it also holds a historical collection. The parallelogram-shaped building leans sharply and seems to almost tip over. Hadid wrote that she designed the building so that its sloping pleated stainless steel facades would reflect the surrounding neighborhood from different angles. The building continually changes color depending upon the weather, the time of day, and the angle of the sun. I mean, that, can you imagine? That's, oh my God, my head is exploding right now. She commented that the building awakens curiosity without ever truly revealing its contents. So you can't ever really, like, I guess, look in because of all of the facades. So I love that. Now this is the design that made me fall in love with her. Maybe this is the design that's made a lot of people fall in love with her, but I'm not even going to attempt to try to say the name, but this is by far the most popular, I think, and definitely one of my most favorite of her work. So this is a gigantic cultural and conference center containing 3 auditoriums, a library, a museum, with a total space of 10,801 square meters on a surface of 15,514 square meters and a height of 74 meters. Hadid once wrote, "Its fluid form emerges from the folds of the natural topography of the landscape and envelops the different functions of the center." Though the building, when completed, was largely surrounded by Soviet-era apartment blocks, Peter Cook, an architectural review, called it a white vision, outrageously total, arrogantly complete, a unique object that confounds and contradicts the reasonable, a wave form sweeping up, almost lunging into the sky. Here is architecture as the ultimate statement of theater. It is the most complete realization yet of the Iraqi-born architect's vision of sweeping curves and flowing space. Amen, brother. Couldn't have said it better. I mean, it does all the things. I love this one. Next, this was, I believe, in the process of being built. I don't believe it's completed yet, but it is the Beijing airport in Beijing. And I'm not sure if the design was completed in 2019 or if it's still being worked on. But this is obviously post her passing. So this is, her firm is still active, and, you know, whoever's running it, this is a commission that they worked on. This is yet another commission. Was their latest competition win for the OPPO's new headquarters in Shenzhen. I just love that they look like drops of water. Like each tower looks like a drop of water, and it's in the middle of like this concrete rectangular jungle. And then here is this like beautifully fluid structure. It's gonna be gorgeous when it's complete. If it's not complete already, I don't think though. And this is another one. It's King Abdullah Petroleum Studies and Research Center. When I saw this one, I got a little teary-eyed because, and that's crazy, but I mean, look at this. It is immaculate and just amazing, and it's defying so many things. And then this is only like a portion of it because the pictures, it's so grandiose that I can't even fit it all in the pictures. Yeah, this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous design and structure. I can't wait to see that built. And that's it, my friends. Amazing, right? This woman was extraordinary, which is why this video is probably like 87 minutes long, but trust me, it's just, I couldn't have done it with less time. There's just so much to cover when it comes to her. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Please go look at something pretty because you absolutely deserve it, and life is way too short to not look at something pretty every day. And I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.